This show, just like all the other Starrcast shows, are available at adfreeshows.com.
And I think back to those days when you had literally your brothers, and I consider Davey Boy one of them. But it wasn't an easy road for you in the WWF. People might remember the big moments where you finally reached these heights, but you struggled a while in the WWF. And when you look back at that, was it a really valuable time? Do you cherish it in a sense? Because you never, ever gave up.
Well, I was always proud of my work. I remember when I got to WWF back in those days, how they thought I couldn't wrestle. They didn't know anything about me. They barely heard of me, and in those days they'd stick you in a match with a lot of guys that didn't know who I was either, and didn't care who I was, and didn't want to perform with me, didn't want to try anything with me. They didn't offer anything to me. It was just like, go out there and let's just do nothing out there, and they just didn't. I was not worth, getting into a big sweat over. No one wanted to bump for me or fly for me or make me look good or anything like that. And so it was really hard. I remember wrestling some guys that just purposely killed the match and didn't do anything with me. And when it came time for me to make a comeback or something, they didn't give me any, they would move on my drop kick or whatever I did. They didn't trust me. They didn't give anything to me. And if you have enough of those kind of matches, which I did for 3 or 4 months, I was plus one other match for I think almost 6 months straight in WWE in 1984. And it was tough because they had promised me when they brought me in, they said, we're going to put you with all the top guys, and you're going to be a big star here. And I remember kind of rolling my eyes and thinking, I don't believe any of that. But at the same time, it's like, that's what they said. So I'll be an optimist and hope that maybe they find some way to make me a star down there. But it was very hard to convince anyone that I was any good when nobody would help me. Wrestling's a lot more like figure skating than anything else. When I think of pro wrestling, you need somebody to help you, especially if you're a good guy. You need the bad guy to do stuff to you to get sympathy and then allow you to make a big comeback and kind of let you shine a little bit. But I wasn't in that kind of category at that time. So I didn't impress anyone with my wrestling style. Usually it was like an arm drag or a sunset flip or your very basic kind of preliminary wrestling moves. But I remember when they eventually tagged me up with Jim and we worked with the Bulldogs. And I can remember Chief Jay Strongbow, who was one of Vince's right-hand guys in the office in those days. He told my dad, he goes, he's finally starting to get it. And I remember my dad goes, he had it a long time ago. I'd wrestled.
He had it when he got there.
I'd wrestled Nick Bockwinkel, who was AWA champion. I wrestled him for an hour draw in Calgary during the Stampede. And I'd wrestled some. I've been to Japan. I was a better wrestler than they ever thought. And I know that I just was patient. And I know I told the story at the Hall of Fame this year about. It was like, I think it was the first match that Vince could watch me in a house show, not a TV taping. He'd seen me wrestle at TV tapings where you just do squash matches, and he'd watched little bits and pieces of me, but he'd never actually seen me have a bona fide real match with a real team on a good spot in the card and where I could really perform. And that was why I told that story at the Hall of Fame, is because we worked with the Killer Bees and we tore the house down. We were on second match or something, and we had such a good match, and the whole place was just rocking and cheering really loud when we went back to the dressing room. And I can remember Vince standing there when I came through the curtain, and he held out his hand and he goes, hell of a match. And I know there was a moment there where we looked at each other and he had a big smile. I think he was genuinely pleased with my match. I don't know how he couldn't have been, but I think he kind of looked at me like that was like I had no idea that you guys could be that good. And I think that was the first time I was on Vince McMahon's radar, and that's why I told that story. But I slowly but surely started to get people to give me a little more rope. Actually, the key to my success all came from the idea of turning into a bad guy and turning partner with Jim the Anvil and being the Hart Foundation. Because once I was, I remember wrestling a guy named Terry Gibbs. I don't know if you guys remember Terry Gibbs. He was like a job guy. But he would wrestle me, and I remember he came back to the dressing room and he was talking about me after the match, and he said something along the lines that I would never get it. I just couldn't get it. Couldn't understand what I was doing out there or something like that. And I remember it bugged me that he said that I couldn't get it. And I think I was probably one of my last babyface matches is at that time. And then they turned me into a bad guy with Jim. And it was such a great experience. I got to be the driver in the car now. I could be the bad guy, and I could take all the Bret Harts that were in WWF at the time and give them these great matches and really have some really great matches and show everybody that I could work a good match. And that's what happened. Once I tagged up with Jim, I was driving the car. Like we set the pace, we set the style, and we build the story, and we just make the good guys look good, kind of thing. And that was what saved me.
Yeah, awesome. And so many great matches along the way. And
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.